definitely play around with just the background to really change how this image looks. But this is a cool and quick way to make a flat Earth. I would recommend you spending a little bit more time on it and get these details a little bit better. But these are overall the basic steps you would do to make a flat Earth. You want to get that disk, put the Earth on top of it, make your dome, and then make your bottom part, and then blend the sun and the moon together, and you get some really cool effects like this. But guys, I hope you enjoyed this quick tutorial on this surreal artwork. And this is going to be our flat Earth project. So again, we're going to open up Photoshop and make it our width 2400, our height 3000, and our resolution 300 as always. I'm going to go ahead and save this as our tutorial file so you will have access to it as well. So let's go ahead and save that. Now you're going to need a lot of pictures for this one, and I'm going to show you how to blend them all together and create this surreal type of flat Earth picture. So let me go ahead and bring these pictures in. First of all, we're going to need our space image. Like this. We're going to need our picture of the Earth, which is just a picture of the entire Earth with no clouds or anything like that. We're going to need a few pictures of clouds, possibly this one and maybe some more, but maybe we can just get away with this one. And we're going to need a picture of a sun, and we're going to need a picture of a mountain, and we're probably going to need a picture of a moon as well. So that's really going to be your main pictures that you need here. Let me go ahead and grab a moon picture off of the internet. Moon. Okay, and a moon picture like this. And so lots of different options if you want to get a different picture. But all of these will be included in the tutorial. Again, they are downloaded on free stock websites. I think I got every single one of these from Pixabay.com, but these are the pictures we're going to need. So the first thing we want to do is we want to start bringing in our elements for this flat Earth image. And so what we want to do is go and work on the background, which is going to be our space image. And so we're going to bring this directly into our file. Just like that, you notice it's a lot bigger than we need it, but let's go ahead and transform it and rotate it 90 degrees clockwise or counterclockwise, depending on which orientation you want. And I'm going to just make it so it roughly fits the size of the canvas, something like that. We do have a little bit of wiggle room here, so we can make it, we can slide it to where we want it to go. But something like that is fine. We can always change the background later if we want to. So this is going to be our space background. Space background. All right, and so the next thing we want to do is we want to start compiling elements for the Earth. And so what we're going to do is we're going to create a flat Earth. So I'm just going to get a elliptical marquee tool here, and I'm going to draw just a nice little oval, pretty much right in the center of the screen. Looking at the flat Earth from above, it would be a perfect circle, right? So if we're looking directly down, but if we're looking at it from the edge, it's going to be more like an oval. And so we want to make this little oval shape about like this. It depends on what perspective you want, but I think something like that will be fine. And I'm just going to go ahead and fill it to like a gray color here so we have it to look at here. All right, so here is what the Earth is going to look like. This is the shape here, and we're going to put the continents and the oceans and the clouds all on top of this disk, and this is going to be the surface of the Earth. And then we're going to start adding elements all around it, including the dome over top of it. So I personally do not believe in a flat Earth, but I do think this is a really fascinating way to look at the world, and it really is an opportunity to do some creative art. Most flat Earth people will tell you that the stars are not outside of the Earth, they're actually inside of the dome. But we're not going to do that. We're going to have the stars as our backdrop. But anyways, most flat Earth people would say it's on a disk, kind of like a flattened sphere. Instead of a sphere, it's more like a disk shape. And so this is the shape we're going to be doing. And so what we want to do is just go ahead and start working on our elements inside of the sphere. So, or not the sphere, the disk. And we're going to go ahead and bring our continents in first. So let's just bring these directly into our file. It's obviously too big again, but let's go ahead and clip it to our disk. Let me go ahead and rename that one disk. And we'll name this one continents. So Control-Alt and G on your computer will clip it to your disk right here, and then we're going to need to make it significantly smaller, and so just bring down the size. Now, it's not going to make a lot of sense to make it look like this because we are on a different perspective. We are looking at it from an angle, so we're going to have to make it into that angle as well. So what I want to do first is just hold your Control key down, and let's just drag some of these markers here on the top and just make it a lot flatter of an image. And then we can bring these over to the left and the right on the bottom as well. And that's really going to flatten this Earth image right here. So something kind of like that. Don't necessarily have to get this part perfect, but right here I think looks fine. And then what I'll do is hit the check mark and then go to Edit and Warp. And then I'm going to finish this off. So I'm going to make sure that this part of the sphere goes to the back. These parts go over to the left and to the right. And I'm really just making this, these continents look like they're being squished onto this little disc. So let's bring up Antarctica right here and make sure this back part is nice and squished down like that. So we can get all of our continents on here, kind of like that. So just using the warp tool, your perspective tools, and you can get something that looks kind of like this. Let's make sure Australia stays in there, and something kind of like this. Might take a few times practicing it, but just use your warp tool and make it fit to this disc. When you're happy with it, hit your check mark, and let's back up. And that's not bad. It's not bad, but I do think our disc is a little bit too tall, so I'm just going to make the entire disc and the continents a little bit skinnier, like this. And that looks good like that. Hit your check mark, and I think we're done right there. Okay, so that looks pretty good. That's a good start to our image here. Now, there's a few issues with this picture of the continents. I think it's much too dark. The oceans are just completely like blackened out. And so I don't like that. I don't think that's the color that I want to go for here. I want more of an aqua light blue for our oceans. And so what I'm going to do is with my continents layer, select it, go to your image, and go down to shadows and highlights. And what we want to do is just bring your shadows up really strong, like 100% here. And what that's going to do is that's going to make those dark blues a lot lighter in color. And so you can play around with the shadows and highlights, and that'll definitely make it a lot brighter for your dark ocean here. But then after you do that, let's go ahead and go to a selective color as well. And let's go to our blues, and let's bring those up as well. So bring your blacks over to the left, and that's going to make them a lot lighter. And let's bring our cyans over and our magentas over as well. Okay, and that looks better, but it's still not as bright as I want it to be. So let's do another one on top of it. So we have two selective colors here. Let's see if this works any better. We'll go to our cyans. Kind of like that. That's not bad. That's a little bit better. So essentially I did the exact same thing, just two selective colors. And what we're doing is we're just trying to make this dark blue ocean a lot lighter. You could also do like a layer on top of it and get like the color that you want, like this bluish teal color. And then you could paint on top of it. And let's try a screen. And that's not bad either. So you could do that. It's a little bit too intense. So we would want to tone that down just a little bit, kind of like that. So that is one way to get that color in there as well. Okay, so you can see what we've done. We just added some shadows and highlights. and selective colors, and then the screen blend mode, and this is what we have so far. So that's a good start right there. As you notice, there's no clouds though. This picture, which is a really cool picture of the Earth, there's no clouds in it, so we do want to add a few clouds. So what I'm going to do that is I'm going to do a selection over these clouds right here, and let's do just a quick rectangular selection. Bring those in to your Earth image, and let's paste them right on top of everything, just like that. And Control Alt and G to clip it to our disk. And so now you can see that we have our clouds right over our disk here. And so what I want to do is, again, we want to flatten these clouds. So bring these little corners in, holding the Control key the entire time. That way you can just play with the perspective here, bring those down. And so we can put some clouds like right over here. Let's go ahead and start with the left side of the screen. So about right in there should be pretty good. Then what you want to do is change your blend mode to lighten, like that, and that's not bad. And since it's lighten, what that's doing is it's bringing some of these light blues in, but I want to make sure I just want the whites to come through. So let's make it a little bit darker. So just go to your image, and we'll do levels adjustment, that's fine. And then bring your midtones down just a little bit like that. And that's pretty good right there. Okay, so you can see that we have our clouds here. It is bringing some of the blue in, and that's okay. But I mainly want the white spots to be visible. Just go ahead and duplicate that. Make sure it's lighten again, and then make sure you're clipped to your disk. And then we'll just bring some over here and maybe just warp it up a little bit so it doesn't look like it's the same clouds both times. So kind of like that. And that looks fine, just like that. And you're going to want to mask out some of these edges, some of these hard edges that were still in the layer when we cut it out. So make sure you get rid of those hard edges just using layer masks. But that's a really quick way to add some clouds. Just flatten them and just make them to lighten, so only the white part is going to go through. And then underneath both of those cloud layers, let's call these cloud shadows. Cloud shadows. Change it to multiply, and then just get you a little medium gray. And what you want to do is just very carefully just go underneath these clouds that we added in, and just paint a little bit of shadows underneath them. That's really all we're doing. Just paint a little bit of shadows right underneath these clouds. Just give them a little bit of depth. Looks like they're hovering above the Earth here, and so this is one quick way to do that. Just use your brush tool and just paint a few little shadows here and there. Just like that. Just giving it a little bit of depth. And if you do it too much, obviously you can bring down the opacity. So something like that, just to give them a little bit more depth that looks like they are, underneath. The Earth is underneath these clouds, so that you can see this. You can see the shadows of these clouds. Okay, I'm not going to spend too much time working on these right here, but this is a good way to give some little 3D depth to these clouds. All right, so this is a good start. We can always move these things around if we need to. So they're clipped, so they are they're already in the picture here, so we can move them around if we need to, but I think right there should be pretty good, just like that. All right, so next step we want to do, all right, next thing we want to do is work on the base of the Earth. So we want to make give it some little depth here, like it's coming down into the sky. And one way, there's lots of different ways we can do this, but we're going to use mountains to do it. So these mountains right here, we're going to use this as the base of our flat Earth here. So I'm just going to use a quick select tool, and I'm just going to mask out I'm going to mask out the sky here. So I'm just using a quick select tool and just trying to select the entire sky. And Once I have the sky selected completely, just using our quick select, I'm just going to hit a layer mask button and then invert it. And now we have our mountains. So just go ahead and control click your mask and then copy those mountains, and then we'll bring it directly into our file here. So copy and paste it, and now we have our mountains into the scene, and we want to make sure it is upside down. So go to transform and flip vertical, and then we're going to make it a lot smaller as well. So let's just bring it, our size is kind of like this, kind of like that. All right, I'm actually going to use the warp tool as well, so we can kind of go into this this edge of the disc right here, kind of like that. So it looks like it has a little bit of, it looks like it's curving a little bit, like it's curving around the perimeter of the actual disc. That's kind of the plan here. So it's kind of bulging out as it goes around. Something kind of like that. There's lots of different options that you can do for this. You can use all different types of rock pictures or mountain pictures or dirt pictures, whatever you think would be underneath a flat earth like this. That's definitely up to you what you want to do here. But something like that I think is fine. And then I'm just going to mask out these hard edges here. So these edges right here, we're just going to bring these in using a hard brush, kind of like that. And then over here as well, I'm going to just kind of come in and follow the contour of this little mountain here. Make it look kind of like that. All right. So something like that, definitely up to you what you want to put here on the bottom of the earth. But I think the little mountains, could look pretty good if we do it right. So this is what I'm looking at right here. It's just these little mountains beneath the earth, and we're going to make them darker in just a few minutes so they blend a little bit better. But right now that's a good start. Just these little jagged mountains that are going down to the bottom underneath the disc. All right, next thing we want to do is I want to draw a little ice. I think they call it a ice bank that goes around the earth. So I want to go ahead and draw one of those. Let's go to the very top of our disc here. And what we want to do is just select this color of Antarctica here, which is pretty much a solid white. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to follow the perimeter of the earth here and just kind of continue this little jagged white line going around the earth. This is kind of like their ice wall or ice bank that they believe, encircles the planet, so all the water doesn't fall out, I guess. But this is where the ice is going to be. So I'm just using a regular brush and just drawing little jagged lines that go around the perimeter of this earth. That's really all I'm doing. Nothing fancy, no fancy brushes or anything like that. Just some little jagged lines going all around the earth. If you want to use, your own brush, your own textured brush or something like that, go for it. But I'm just using a round brush for this one. Okay, that looks pretty good like that. Now what I want to do, let's see this. I'm just going to label this. This is our ice wall. Label this, and let's make sure we save our image. Okay. So we're off to a good start here. We're only just, we're 10 minutes in, and so we've got this so far, and we're on our way here. Next thing I want to do is work on this dome. So most people who believe in the flat earth, they believe there's like this dome that goes over across the earth, and so we want to draw that now. Pretty simple to draw. Just get your elliptical marquee tool here, and then what you want to do is you want to draw an elliptical shape here that's going to go from the left side all the way to the right side. And so you can determine how tall it's going to be. It can be very tall like this. Just make sure your edges line up. I'm holding the shift key down as I'm drawing it, and that helps me move it across the picture. Every time you hold down shift and drag your mouse, you can move it across the scene. But you can do it as tall as you want, like an egg like that, if you want to do it like that. or you can make it a lot smaller and more like this shape. And I think that's the shape I'm going to do right here. Just a nice little circle, oval going from one edge of the earth to the other, just kind of like that. Let go. And now that you have this, selection right here, we can go on a brand new layer, and we'll call this our dome. What you want to do is take a white brush and make your flow really low. I've got mine down to, 4%? Well, I want to go even lower, 2%. Get a pretty large brush here, so maybe, I've got it all the way up to like 1,000 for my brush size. And then you just want to paint very carefully on the edges of the stone. So the brightest parts are going to be the parts near the edge, and then as you get closer to the earth, it's going to fade out just a little bit. So nice and bright up here at the top, and then as you go down the dome, it's not going to be as bright anymore. So that's all you got to do. Just draw very carefully right up here on the top. And then when you're happy with that, go to select and deselect, and there is your dome, just like that. And just make sure you erase this part that you may have accidentally drawn that's going underneath the earth. So you want to make sure you erase down here. But that's pretty much all you have to do to make a dome. Very, very simple to do. And I think that looks pretty good like that. We'll do some other effects to it in just a minute, but this is a good starting point. All right, the next thing I want to do is we want to add the sun to this picture. So most flat earthers believe that there will be a sun that's going to be, on one part of the earth, and it's it's kind of shining down on one part of the earth, and then on the other part of the earth over here is going to be a little bit dark. And so let's see if we can try to do that as well. So we're going to bring our sun picture in. This is a picture of a sun, but you can use any picture of the sun that you want. And let's bring this in. It's much too large. And let's change it to screen. And I'm going to put our sun pretty much right here on the left side. So if this was a clock, this would be like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. And so I'm going to put this right up here, something kind of like that. And then I am going to use a brush and mask out the edges of this sun, because I don't want all of these little clouds all up in space. I want a little bit of that orange color, but I don't want it quite like that. So something like this. Very, very subtle. And if you erase too much, just change your brush back to white and then just paint it back right here. But something like that's pretty good. All right, make sure we get all those edges off. Okay, so that's pretty good right there. And then on top of that, we're going to get a nice little orange color, kind of like this. Maybe a little bit more red than it is yellow, but something kind of like that. And then we're going to make a large circle over top of this sun, kind of like this. Change that to screen. Okay, that's a good start right here. I'm actually going to follow the dome a little bit, so I'm going to just drag some little brush strokes over here. That's going to go left and right. So that's pretty good right there. Okay, and now let's make another one on top of that. Same color, maybe just a little bit more saturated. And then bring it right over top of the sun and part of the dome here. And let's change that to overlay. And I think that's going to be good for our sun here. I'm going to actually go back to our original sun and just erase a little bit of those clouds that are getting into the space part of the picture. I think that's a little distracting. So let me make sure I get rid of those. All right. Looks good, looks good. All right, so we have our sun, and then we have some of these little glows in here. I'm just going to put them in a group and call this sun. And so here's our sun, our main part of our sun going across the dome, and it's going down into the earth, and we can move it to, if you want it more like inside the dome, or if you want it above the dome, But I've got mine right on top of the dome, and so I think that's a good place for it. But wherever you want to put it would be fine. All right, next thing I want to do is do a glow on top of this and make you a new group, and we'll call these sun glows. Change your blend mode to color dodge, and then make sure there's a layer inside of that group. And we're going to get a nice little bright orange again. Change your flow down, and then just paint right over the sun, and go right over the edges of this dome as well. So part on the sun, part on the dome, like that. And then let's tone it down if you go a little bit too crazy with it. Like this. Okay, so there's a little bit of amplified glows there, so I think that's fine. And let me add one more glow to our sun. Nice and large like this. Large orange, and change that to screen, and that's good right there. Okay, so just one extra glow on our sun group there. So here's our sun, and then here's our glows. So this is good for our sun element of the picture, but now let's work on the moon part of the image. And so for the moon part of the image, we want to have darkness over part of the earth. So the moon is going to be on the left side, or the right side, and the sun is on the left, and we want the earth to be nice and dark. So let's go ahead and make a new group that is going to be clipped to our disk. So this is going to be our darkness, and then we want to get a nice little dark gray color here, and change it to multiply. Change your blend mode to multiply, and we're just going to just paint right on the right side of the screen. Let's add just a little bit of blue to this color here, like that. And let's even make it darker. All right, so this part of the earth is nice and dark, like this. Okay, and then the part where the sun is closest to is nice and bright, so we will put, we'll erase part of that mask right there. Okay. So we have nice and darkness on the one side. We can actually make another group layer right on top of it, and let's add even some more darkness over here to this side. Nice and dark, like that. And then, of course, mask out where the sun is at. So something kind of like this, I think, would look pretty good. So we have two layers of darkness here, and then we are just making that part of the screen a lot darker because the sun is not hitting that part. And then we have the dome that's over top of that as well. And so that is affecting a little bit of the darkness layers as well. Okay, so now we have pretty much most of our image bringing together. We just need to do some color grading here, and we need to add that moon into the scene as well. Let's go and work on our mountains down here. So let's do a levels adjustment on our mountains. And so I'm going to do a levels adjustment and clip it to our mountains. Let's make it a lot darker. So let's bring our whites in kind of like this, like that. Okay, pretty dark. Not sure exactly how dark I want it to go. And then I don't want the bottom part to be completely darkened out. I really just want the darkest spots to be where the edge of the sphere is. So some of these parts are going to be a little bit lighter. And then the other parts of it are going to be a lot darker. They're going to look more like the the top of the earth here. So I'm just going to do a little multiply blend mode right here, right where this ice wall is hitting this part of the mountains. Right in there, looks good. All right. So essentially all I'm doing is just making the mountains a lot darker, pretty much all around. I don't want to be completely blacked out though. I don't want it to be blacked out, but I do want it to be a little bit dark, and then I want to make sure that part of the mountains are still visible. So I still want there to be some little detail in here so you can tell that it's mountain. It's not just a silhouette or anything like that. So that's why I'm doing these little edges of light on the, the edges of this disc here. But something like that I think that looks pretty good. And you can keep playing with it if you want to, and depending on how dark you want it to be. But I think something like this would be pretty good. And we'll go ahead and bring your blacks over as well to take down a little bit of that contrast. All right, so all of that looks pretty good so far. I do think my dome is just a little bit too tall. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my sun and my sun glows and my dome layer, and I'm just going to squeeze it down just a little bit like that. So I am going to make an adjustment right there. So kind of like that. I think this is going to look just a little bit better. Okay, and then of course we need to make sure we erase any of those parts that go down too far below the actual earth there. So we want to make sure we erase those appropriately. Same thing for this glow that we have on the sun. All right, let's go ahead and add that moon in there. So let's get to our moon picture here. Use your elliptical marquee tool, and let's grab this moon right here. Just draw a circle around it. Bring it into your file, and let's make sure it's below the dome image. So there's our dome, and let's put the moon right here. And let's make that moon much, much smaller, and let's put it somewhere right here in the sky. About right there. Oh, let's zoom in a little bit so we can see better. Okay, so somewhere right up here in the sky, and then we'll do a levels adjustment on top of it. Bring your lights down really far, kind of like that. And then what you want to do is just take a brush tool and just zoom in so you can see it. You just want to paint paint black on the edge of the moon, so it's going to reveal that brightest part of the moon, just like that. And so now we have a nice little a moon that is in shadow. You can actually go ahead and make another layer on top of that moon and just kind of multiply a dark color on the back side of it as well, like that. And then make sure you erase the left side. So we got this nice little rim light here of the moon, and I think that looks pretty good like that. So let's put all of those moon layers in one group, and anytime you need to move it around, you can move it to wherever it needs to go. So I'm going to put it about right there, and I think that will be appropriate. But guys, that's pretty much it. We could do some more color grade if you want to. It might be pretty cool to work on our blues in the background, so you could definitely make them a little bit more cyan in color, or make them a little bit more green. So that could be a cool thing to do. You could definitely work on some gradient maps, and try with different gradient maps and see what kind of effects you can get. And I really think that if you play around with it a lot, you can get some really cool effects here. So if we did a blue to a dark blue, that looks pretty cool right there. But if we changed it from blue to like an orange or a red, that looks pretty interesting as well. So lots of different options you can do as far as color grading to bring everything together. I think that looks pretty good like that as well. So that is an option that you can do. Also, you can go down to your space background. So go all the way down to your space background, and you can make your space background a lot brighter like this. And so it looks a lot different when you do like that, or if you make it a lot darker, that doesn't look very good like that. But you can definitely play around with just the background to really change how this image looks. But this is a cool and quick way to make a flat Earth. I would recommend you spending a little bit more time on it and get these details a little bit better. But these are overall the basic steps you would do to make a flat Earth. You want to get that disk put the earth on top of it, make your dome, and then make your bottom part, and then blend the sun and the moon together, and you get some really cool effects like this. But guys, I hope you enjoyed this quick tutorial on this surreal artwork, and we've only got a few more videos left, but when you're ready, let's go ahead and move into the next video in this series.